The last breath in Willow Creek. The rain had been falling on Willow Creek for 17 days straight. Not a furious, thunderous downpour, but a relentless, whispering drizzle that seeped into everything, the bones of the old houses, the pages of unread books, and the spirits of the people. It was the kind of rain that made you forget the sun had ever existed. Eleanor had come back to her grandmother's cottage to sort through her things. The silence inside was thicker than the fog outside, broken only by the tap-tap-tap of water from a leak in the pantry ceiling, hitting a porcelain bowl with metronomic precision. Her grandmother, Agatha, had died in her sleep, they said. Peacefully, a smile on her face. Eleanor didn't believe it. Agatha had been terrified of the dark her whole life, keeping every lamp in the house burning until dawn. On the first night, Eleanor heard the breathing. It was just after 2 a.m., when the world outside the window was a void of black velvet. The tapping in the pantry had stopped. In the new, absolute silence, she heard it, a wet, ragged inhalation from the hallway, right outside her bedroom door. Not her own. This one was slower, deeper, with a faint, liquid gurgle at the end of the exhale, like air bubbling through water in a clogged drain. She froze, her own breath held. The house settling, she thought. Old pipes. The next inhale came, closer now. Just on the other side of the thin wooden door. Eleanor's eyes, wide and straining in the dark, saw the tarnished brass doorknob tremble. Not turn, just vibrate, as if something was leaning against the door, listening, breathing. She didn't sleep. She sat propped against the headboard, a pair of sewing scissors clutched in her hand until the gray, watery light of dawn seeped through the curtains. The breathing faded with the night. The following day, she found the journals. They were in a locked oak chest at the foot of Agatha's bed, the key hidden in a tea tin. The entries weren't diaries of gardening or recipes. They were recordings. October 12th. The breathing came again last night. It stood in the corner for an hour. I did not look. I never look. It's learning my shape. November 3rd. It's in the house with me now, even during the day. I feel it moving behind me, from room to room, always just out of sight. The reflection in the window, I saw something over my shoulder. Long, pale. December 1st. It needs to know me completely before it takes me. That's what it wants. To know what I look like, sound like, smell like. To memorize the rhythm of my heart. Then my breath will become its breath. It's why I keep the lights on. It hates the light. It can't see you clearly in the light. Eleanor's blood turned to ice. It wasn't dementia. The entries were too lucid, too consistent, spanning decades. The final entry, dated the night Agatha died, was a single, shaky sentence. It's my turn to sleep in the dark tonight. That night, the power went out. The relentless rain had finally brought down an old tree on the line at the edge of town. The sudden silence was deafening, and then the tap-tap-tap from the pantry resumed, louder, more urgent. Eleanor lit every candle she could find, her hands trembling, the flames casting monstrous, leaping shadows on the floral wallpaper. The breathing started in the kitchen. A wet, hungry sound. It moved into the living room. Eleanor backed into her bedroom, barricading the door with a heavy dresser. She could hear it moving in the hall, a slow, dragging sound, like a heavy sack being pulled over wet leaves. It can't see you in the light, she whispered to herself, clutching a candle. But then she remembered Agatha's words, it's learning my shape. The candlelight wasn't hiding her. It was outlining her. It was showing her exact shape to the thing in the hall. She blew out the candle. The darkness was absolute, a physical weight pressing on her eyes. The dragging sound stopped. The only noise was the maddening tap-tap-tap from the bowl in the pantry. And then, a new sound. A slow, deliberate scratching on the other side of the door. Not trying to get in. Just tracing the outline of the doorframe. Learning its shape. The doorknob began to rattle, not with vibration, but with a forceful, turning motion. The barricade held. The scratching moved lower, to the thin gap under the door. Eleanor, paralyzed, watched as a thin tendril of darkness, thicker than smoke, more liquid than air, seeped under the door. It wasn't shadow. It absorbed the faint light from the window, a living patch of nothingness. It cooled on the floor, then began to rise, coiling and shaping itself. It formed a slender, impossibly tall column, featureless, but with a faint, pulsating rhythm that mimicked a heartbeat. It was learning the shape of the room. And then, the breathing was inside. Not outside the door, right in the center of the bedroom with her. The wet, gurgling inhale was directly in front of her face. She could smell it, a cold, damp odor of cellar earth and forgotten, stagnant water. Her survival instinct screamed. She scrambled for the door, yanking it open, stumbling into the hall. She didn't run for the front door. She ran for the one place she thought might be safe, the pantry. The source of the tapping. It was a stupid, panicked thought, a child's logic. Face the known evil, not the unknown one. She slammed the pantry door shut behind her. It was pitch black, tiny, claustrophobic. The tap 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 was a hammer on her skull. She felt above her, her fingers finding the leak, the cold water dripping onto her face. She reached out in the dark, her hand closing around the edge of the porcelain bowl catching the drip. And her fingers brushed against something in the bowl. Not water, something solid, yet yielding. Like old, wet leather. She recoiled, but her curiosity, a dreadful magnet, pulled her hand back. She traced the shape in the dark. A curve, a hollow, a distinct, familiar ridge. It was a human ear. A scream died in her throat, turning into a choked whimper. The dripping water wasn't from a leak in the roof. It was from above her, inside the ceiling. Tap, tap, tap. Her grandmother hadn't died peacefully in her bed. Agatha was in the crawlspace. And she was still dripping. The realization was a spike of pure, undiluted horror that locked her joints. At that moment, the pantry door behind her eased open with a long, slow creak. The darkness of the hallway was deeper than the darkness inside the pantry, and from that deeper darkness, the breathing resumed. It was right behind her. It had learned the shape of the pantry. It had learned the shape of the bowl. Now, it was in the doorway, learning her shape. The final entry in the journal flashed in her mind. It's my turn to sleep in the dark tonight. Eleanor understood now. It wasn't Agatha's turn. It had always been Agatha's turn. The thing didn't just take you. It kept you. It made you part of the house, a permanent, terrified fixture, dripping and trapped in the walls, while it wore your breath, your memories, your face for the outside world. The wet, ragged inhalation touched the nape of her neck. The smell of the grave filled the tiny room. She couldn't turn around. She couldn't scream. She could only stare into the blackness, feeling a presence coiling around her, studying the curve of her shoulder, the line of her jaw, learning. The last thing Eleanor heard, before her own breathing began to sync with the slow, watery rhythm of the thing behind her, was the soft, final tap from above, as the last of Agatha's moisture finally, after 17 days of rain, drained away. And in the town of Willow Creek, the rain continued to fall, whispering secrets to the old houses, and waiting for the next heir to come home.